Dori, thank you so much for joining me today. Why don't you kick us off with just letting us get to know a little bit about you?
Yeah, thank you. I was a single mom, super stressed out, and I was changing careers, and I ended up in health and wellness. So I'm sort of a corporate, I guess, runaway. And so I started doing that, and I found that I really loved it. Then I met somebody who was my soulmate, but he had a lot of health issues. So I dug a little bit deeper, and I became something called a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, which really just means that I run all kinds of labs to help people find out what's going on with their health. Because with the medical model, the way that it's designed is that you're looking for a disease. And when you get the disease, you get a medication. And so if you're told that there's nothing that can be done, it's in this construct of the medical model. And so my partner, he became my fiance, had so many health issues that were showing up. And so we started doing the ready, shoot, and aim. Well, what about this supplement? Or what about, all the things? Mm-hmm. And some of it got worse. And I thought, we can't be doing this. And so the reason why I ended up being an FDN, or a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, is because I was listening to a podcast like this one, and it was back in the day, and it was called Underground Wellness. And they said that there was a method where you can actually test, don't guess. So instead of this ready, shoot, and aim method, you can find out what's going on and address it. And what we're looking at is vitality and what's subclinical, not something that when it's already, you've already got a disease state. And if you have a disease state, the lens that we're looking for in the functional model is what is actually the root cause. And what I found, Allie, that's really fascinating is that the root causes are usually because there's something going on in your physiology that changed. And you can actually do things to address that. So going back to the situation with my fiance, he was diagnosed with a terminal condition. And so I was graduating from FDN, and I asked, hey, is this something that can help with this condition? And they said, no, go to a clinic. And so we learned early on that this is a rich person's game to be able to heal from a serious chronic health condition. And ended up in 2020 getting into a Midlife Hormone Mastery certification program. And I saw my lab for hormones, and it was flatlined. And so I did all the things that the Midlife Hormone Mastery group told me to do. And it was good advice. Part of it was bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, but I did additional lab testing and education. And this part was what was really helpful, because originally, I was beginning to talk about the things that cause chronic health conditions. To oversimplify, it's because you have an immune system that's disrupted. You have a nutrient deficiency. So you literally don't have the building blocks to recover. And also there's been some intense chronic stress that has occurred that's basically shut down your nervous system. So again, to oversimplify, you're either in the rest and digest or in the fight-flight mode. I mean, there's a continuum, but when it's extreme, literally, your body's smart. It's going to try and always save you. So it's going to pump that adrenaline. It's thinking you're getting away, trying to get away from something that's an immediate threat.
And do you think that's what was happening? Because you were the caregiver,
yes,
that you were in this fight or flight mode?
Absolutely. Because is this person going to die? It was a severe chronic illness. So it's like every morning I'd wake up and I would put my hand on his heart. If he wasn't in the room, I'd get up and look and see where he was. It was that kind of mentality. Wow. And so, yes, the world isn't safe. My partner isn't safe. Thanks for asking that, because of course now you see, like, your brain is thinking, I am not okay. I need to keep doing something to stay alive and help my loved ones stay alive. And so, yeah, everything kind of was in fight, flight. And so nothing I was doing was in rest and digest mode. Digesting food, nutrient deficiencies, detoxification, sex hormones, those are not going to be online because I'm about to die potentially.
Were you in midlife? What was your age?
I was 42 when this started.
Oh, wow.
And then,
okay, so you're right there where so many of us start to see
yes,
all of those body changes. So
right,
for you, you're kind of waking up to what was happening with your body. It was different. It was kind of, you were thrown into it from this situation. And I kind of want to backpedal a little bit to those of us who maybe aren't experiencing something as dramatic, Dori, as you experienced with, your fiance and your husband, now your husband, right? You guys have been married. So how does the normal midlifer kind of show up to this space where they start to realize their body starts to send them signals that maybe I am in fight or flight, or that my body just isn't functioning very well. Because just to give you a brief backstory on me, it was about 44 for me when I couldn't sleep anymore. I didn't know why. Like, the sleep was just insanity, insomnia. I was so tired I could sleep. Then the weight gain started, developed a rash around my face. What are some of why does this happen? What are signals we should look out for? Like what is going on that we should kind of go? Because back in the day, we heard midlife was like hot flashes.
Right.
Right. And that's kind of what we were looking for, but we're not seeing that anymore. So kind of talk to that midlifer, like, what should we be looking for? What's going on that puts us in that fight or flight?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of times what we're finding is that this could actually start as early as 35 years old. That's when things begin to shift.
Wow.
And yeah, so that's kind of a shocker because we don't think of that as being midlife, but a lot of times it can start there. Not for everybody, but it's a continuum. And so it's interesting what you were saying about, like, well, people that are like, the average woman that doesn't have a lot of stress. But when you think about it, we live in the most stressful time, I think, in history, because a lot of us are working. We weren't working before. If you're a parent, now you're parenting. And in our generation, or my generation, in the Gen X, the men are still just doing their job and the women are actually now doing more. And so this is the first time we're not just, staying at home and doing the things that we were doing, which was extremely taxing and valuable. But now we're also working. And now it's not even an option. And now it's almost like, well, if you're a stay-at-home mom, then you feel guilty because you're not doing the work thing. If you're doing the work thing, you're not doing the stay-at-home mom thing well, because you really can't have that work-life balance, because those are big deals, right? And so we're trying to have it all, and things haven't shifted in a way that makes that possible. So I feel like, and what I've seen is, there's a great book called Why We Can't Sleep. And it's all about this Gen X dynamic. But a lot of people come to me and say they don't have a lot of stress. They haven't been stressed. But actually, when I look at their markers, they are freaking stressed. I mean, their circadian curve is upside down even. And so that is really stressful. In modern day society also, we don't live in an environment that is conducive to our primal nature. What does that mean? Well, our body looks at light to see if it's daytime, and also dark to see that it's nighttime. And we have that upside down now. We could do whatever we want with the light. And it's the sensing signal that tells us what to do with our hormones, immune system, digestion. It has a clock in the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. So basically, in the daytime, it creates hormones and it generates your energy and adaptive reserve so that you can do your day, and at nighttime, it goes down. And your circadian curve is actually one of the biggest indicators of your longevity. And we can see it on the test. The test that I had, it was flatlined. So I see a lot of women actually in that situation. And you were asking, like, what is that? So stress is, because we're trying to have it all, right? We had a pandemic, and that completely shifted it so that I'm not seeing a lot of people who are not in that state of fight, flight, or just their circadian curve, their rhythms are off. And so it doesn't know when to produce hormones and when to think of a factory line. If you start shuffling all the machines about and it's not doing the right order, it can't thrive. And so that's essentially what's happened to us in modern day life. Plus the foods we're eating, there are a lot of chemicals that our grandparents couldn't possibly identify. Farming, we've over-farmed our lands. These are other kinds of stressors. That's what I'm getting into. Your body perceives it as stress because, like orange, for example, from our grandparents, we have to probably eat 4 or 5 to have the same amount of nutrients. So we're nutrient deficient. And then there are 80,000, the last time I looked, toxic chemicals that haven't been tested by the FDA. That's just in general circulation. And then there's like the 5Gs. They've done the testing now to see that it can cause migraines and it can cause anxiety, depression, and sleep disturbances. So, I think it's not just women and their hormones, but it's also our lifestyles. If we are looking at our screens at night, if we're trying to detox, that's going to come through our skin. So when you were saying, like, there's something that was happening that was trying to detox, but it wasn't able to do it adequately with the organs of detox internally. And so it's trying to get it out from your skin. It could be the food, it could be EMFs, it could be something in your environment, it could be a personal care product. So even though a lot of women don't deal with the stressors that I have, it's that stress of this body doesn't know where we are anymore in time. And also it's getting all of these things that is not in nature. I mean, if you think we did the things to an animal, we didn't take it for a walk, it was never out in nature, never touched the ground, never saw the sunshine, had like Coca-Cola or coffee every day instead of water, we would freak out. And then, when it's like, we watch what comes out of the dog when we walk it, right?
100%.
If something weird is coming out, we worry, but we don't think about that for us. Like, okay, it's fun, funky, whatever, And so those are the stressors of modern day.
I love what you're saying, because you are definitely helping me realize that I had never thought about the stressors of the modern day. And you and I talked before a little bit about the whole circadian rhythm and light. And I have thought about that for weeks leading up to this, when I am up at night or up really early and I'm turning the light on and I'm thinking, this is not the natural sun. My body is probably not ready to wake up. But I want to ask you, so we've got all these modern day stressors that we probably don't even realize, because you certainly have made it so that I didn't even realize these things. I just thought, this is my life. This is how I go about living it. And so then when something starts to feel off and you're not sleeping right, or maybe you're gaining weight, you're thinking, oh, maybe I'm just eating a little more or whatever. So we tend to go down this path. And you talked about it earlier when we were talking about what you went through with your fiance, your husband, where it's a rich man's game or whatever, where you go to the doctor, right? And so you're like, hey, doc, something's feeling off. Maybe you go to your annual checkup and you're just like, hey, I'm not getting some sleep. And they just don't have any of these answers, or they give you back this, oh, nope, your blood works fine, or they'll send you to a hormone specialist who will make it even worse by saying, nope, your levels are all fine, you're good. And you're like, no, but I am not okay. So, which adds to the mental, I'm crazy, right? Because these professionals are telling you you're okay, but your body doesn't feel that way. And so I want to talk a little bit about, kind of, what do we do at that point, when we're just like, okay, like example for me, I've gotten my hormones tested. I've had my doctor say, you're okay. They say, all right, you're good. You've just told us, no, we feel awful, but you do something a little bit. And I guess you tell me, what do we do at that point? I'd love to talk a little bit more about biochemistry, because that's really where you've leaned into, and you have this really cool way of checking like our biochemistry that I want you to tell us about, because I thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever heard. So what do we do if I'm in midlife, and I wish I would have met you, 4 or 5 years ago when all of these symptoms started happening, and I've gone to my doctor, I've had my hormones checked, and they're saying, no, you're normal, you're good, but I don't feel good. But what do I do then?
Yeah. Such a good question. You're right. I mean, women are being told that everything is okay and your labs look great. And so they're looking at things that are, basic functioning. And they are looking until like things start creeping up, and then now you have some kind of diagnosis. But until then, even if it's trending in the wrong direction, it may not show up. Plus, doctors, labs, and this is just your training, so I'm not trying to, shame anybody, but their functional labs are a population of sick people, not a population of healthy people. And so what they're looking at is like, how sick are you going to be before we medicate you? Until then, maybe no. And for a long time, the medical model didn't use women. Studies didn't use women, not the medical model. Even things that involve women, because our cycles got in the way. And so there's not a lot known about the female body. It's gotten better, I think, within the last 20 years, but 20 years out of all this time. So, and people who are gynecologists or people who study women's bodies, the focus is so much in fertility that there's not a lot about perimenopause and menopause. Because why, right? Now we're beginning to know more. The reason why, so what I ended up doing was I looked at my hormones, and they were depleted. This was when I was 51, and so I was taking the Midlife Hormone Mastery course, and I thought, okay, of course. I mean, the reason why I feel the way I feel is because my hormones are going down, and I need to do something to bring it back. And so it made everything worse. And actually, I ran a hair tissue and mineral analysis, and that's different from a blood test, because the blood test looks at serum, and it looks like the snapshot of what's been going on in your body. And because the blood is supposed to create homeostasis, it's trying to balance things out. And so the hair tissue and mineral analysis is literally a very clever tissue sample, and it tells you what's going on a cellular level. It tells you what your body is able to do in terms of like, is it able to help with hormone balance? Because the minerals are the spark plugs to your body, and any kind of action that your body needs to do requires minerals to kind of orchestrate that. They're like the conductors in the back telling everything what to do, including hormone balance, including detoxification, including this. I think the most important part for me is energy. So when you're stressed out and you're burning the candle at both ends and you're always worried, you're in fight, flight, and you've got your adrenaline running for a long period of time, at some point, things start getting depleted, but you don't think you're stressed out because you've been in that state. It's become your normal. And so what you can do when you look at the hair tissue and mineral analysis is you can see what's going on with your energy level. Are you actually able to create energy? And the reason, Allie, why I talk about that is because in order to do something with the hormones that you're using, do something with the supplements that you're taking, do something with the nutrition that you're eating, or even the frankenfoods that aren't real, your body has to do something with it. And if you, from number one, the root cause of root causes, don't have cellular energy, you cannot handle it. And now you're getting more depleted. So here I am taking my bioidentical hormones, which is not a bad thing to do. It's just that when you don't know that you can't do anything with it, it made it worse, and it had more toxicities. Copper and estrogen have a symbiotic relationship. My copper went high. Copper causes inflammation, horrible mood swings, sleep disruptions, all the things that are basically signs of menopause. Now it's gotten worse. How would I have known if I didn't, what's going on, if I didn't look at these labs? Because what happens when you take bioidenticals is initially you feel better, and then you feel worse. But you think, I felt so good, it couldn't be the hormones. I must be doing something else wrong. So you start digging and looking at other things, but we're not looking at these key markers. And so that's why I like to look at the hair tissue and mineral analysis. And what I found, remember, I learned more than 12 different functional labs.
Yeah.
It tells you if you have heavy metal toxicities. And so that could be mercury, aluminum, cadmium, uranium. All of us have some of it, but it also impacts your mood, like Mad Hatter syndrome with mercury. If you have it high, lead, women worry about their bone health, and that can embed in your bones. Lead actually replaces the calcium in your bones. And so when we go to menopause, we start losing our bone density, and all this lead comes out, and it also embeds in your brain. And so what do you do? Like, how do you know? A lot of us within the first year of menopause lose 20% of our bone density because estrogen is involved in bone remodeling and maintenance. And we aren't told this, right? So all of these symptoms come up, but I would contend that a lot of it is because we're burnt out and have no cellular energy. And so to cap it off, the hormones leave. And now it's because hormones protect you from all the sins of life. Yeah. And when they go away, it's gone. And so so we think it's the hormones, and yes, it is. But really what's going on is you have nutrient deficiency, cellular energy, overload of toxic burdens, and you're living a life that isn't in uniformity with your biochemistry, your primal needs. And so that's what's going on. And in addition to that, we're depleted in minerals. I don't think I've seen anybody with no mineral deficiencies or imbalances. So, basically for midlife women, our metabolism begins to slow down. You actually can see your metabolic rate in your mineral test. And so you can actually see why, and you can calibrate it. And it sounds a little bit weird, and let me explain. So for example, calcium is something that puts the brakes on things, slows things down. And then phosphorus is the thing that gives you vitality and spark and energy. And so that's the calcium phosphorus ratio. If your calcium goes high and your phosphorus goes low, we can see that your metabolism is slowing down. So your body's doing everything more slowly, including burning fat, absorbing minerals, and your energy is stumped. And so when you're able to look at this, you can address it.
Well, and I have one question because on the hair, because, this hair and mineral sand, the HTMA, which you call it, what does that reveal that blood tests don't? Because when I think about why would a hair sample reveal more versus a blood test? You would think a blood test would give you a clear picture. So what does it reveal that blood tests don't?
Yeah, that's a good point. So I would say the beauty of, remember we were talking about this is a rich person's game to stay healthy, that it's both and. They both have their strengths. So basically the blood, the serum, it's a regulator, and it basically brings the nutrients and everything where it's supposed to go. But also if you have toxic metals, it's not going to carry it in your blood. It's going to put it somewhere in your tissue, in your cells. And so you're not going to see it. If you see lead or in your blood, you're in trouble, emergency, right? But then this is something that even over time, I mean, if you have lead, mercury, and all these kinds of metals in your body that are toxic, they could have been put there a long time ago. And so your body embeds it. And something that's interesting is that so organs are very precious. So your body is not going to put it necessarily into organs unless it has nowhere else, but it'll put it into your body fat. So I don't know if you ever felt like you were losing weight and you felt worse, and then you just kind of like, I don't feel well, I'm just going to have this, whatever it is, and it'll feel better. It's because when you lose weight, you're actually circulating more toxins. You need to have an idea of how to actually get that out of your body, whether it's more hydration or even something called binders to actually absorb it and bring it out of the body. These things like toxins that we find in hair tissue mineral analysis is not going to be in the blood, but also certain minerals are not in the blood, like magnesium. Most of it is in your cells, not in the blood, maybe 1%. Same thing with potassium. So you're not going to find it in your blood. So it's not able to see these things, and it won't see it in the ratios that we see it, and also the levels. Like, for example, if you look at a hair test, it has a bunch of minerals that shows if it's all under level, you're depleted. And we won't be able to see that except for in the cells, because that's where it's being held.
Well, and I want to talk about mineral deficiencies. Obviously, I want to know, what can I do to improve that? Before I ask you that, I'm curious, like, so as you run these hair, and remind me, HTMA stands for?
Hair tissue and mineral analysis.
Hair tissue mineral analysis. Okay, perfect. As you run these HTMAs on women, what are some of the patterns that you've seen in our biochemistry that maybe explain the symptoms that we've just got, that, this long list of symptoms you've just shared with us?
Yeah. So the thing that blew me away about this lab is that it has more information than in one lab, and it's not like it's the least expensive, honestly, is you get to see your metabolic rate. You can see why it's slowing down, which is amazing, right? You're like, I have a slow metabolism. Well, what does that even mean? And how do I address that? Because there are 10 different things that could be causing it, right? Or more. Very bio-individual. Could be for one person, one reason, another person, another thing. It can show, basically, as I mentioned, whether or not you're actually nutrient depleted. You can see it across the board in, like, there's nothing like looking at it visually to really get why, and have more compassion for yourself instead of I'm lazy, like no motivation, no transmitters, you can see them low. And that is the thing that gives you dopamine and all kinds of moods. And so if you feel like you used to be a high achiever as you're talking to your leaders, right? And then all of a sudden you can't do it. Like, I can't muster it. I must be broken. If you look at the lab, you can see, like, I don't have the ability, first of all, to generate the energy. So now it's in protection mode. It's literally something called functional freeze or cell danger response. Your mitochondria is shutting down because there's just too much, too fast, too often, and it's done. The brain fog, I mean, that's part of it as well.
Talk to me. Okay. I love that you're saying this because, I consider, I was very like highly driven, high achieving. I believe I'm still high achieving, but for sure now at almost 49, that drive that I had even 10 or 15 years ago, I am way more tired. And scarier to me is like, okay, fine. Maybe I can replenish that with good supplementation, good eating, a good night's rest. Scarier to me is the brain fog.
Right.
Like, talk to me, what is brain fog? Because part of me even worries, like, oh my gosh, am I on the path to dementia? Like, I just don't even know what's going on with my body. So obviously this HTMA test is going to help me. But is brain fog then too a symptom of all of these like mineral deficiencies and this stressed out world I'm living in?
Absolutely. So there's a bidirectional relationship with the minerals or biology and psychology. So the biggest depleter of minerals is stress, right? And then my rare pause, because I'm trying to, and then of course the biggest thing that can help is mineral and nutrients, because it gives you the vitality and energy, again, going back to energy, to be able to address that. And so when you're nutrient depleted, yeah, things aren't firing. Your mitochondria literally is shutting down, saying it's dangerous. I need to conserve. Like brain firing, energy, all the things, the feel good chemicals, the drive, everything is slowing down. Not to mention, your hormones are leaving. And that's why a lot of people look at that first, because they're the first big levers to shift. But when you, at some point, and when you can't handle that anymore, then you go back to, okay, now I've got this disease, what do you call them? Like estrogen and progesterone, everything's kind of circulating. I don't have any ability to do something with it. And so it's like now it's even more exhausted. So literally your body and your mind is depleted and exhausted, and that is what's happening. But it's not something you can't undo. Other thing is inflammation. We're less able to deal with blood sugar imbalances. That means like carbs, sugar, grains, bread. And so your blood sugar also causes that brain fog because it's glucose. Glucose is your brain and your body's ability to use energy, right? And so it's like an overload, and then you can have something called reactive hypoglycemia, which happens when you are in burnout. A lot of us are. Your blood, basically you eat something and then your sugar goes high in your blood vessels and it goes down and regulates. Well, when you're in adrenal burnout, you can't bring it up again. So it's like that nutrient source of glucose is not coming back in, and you end up with, afternoon, maybe you're like, oh my God, I'm so tired. I don't care if the world is on fire. Yes. I need to lie down. I can't function. I can't think. Blood sugar imbalance is a big part of it. So part of it is also adjusting out maybe more protein, fat, and fiber first before you eat the glucose, almost to put the brakes on the glucose spike. Or some people will actually go more low carb because your body can't handle carbs anymore. Carbs are something that we're actually trying to self-medicate too, because we end up having more cravings because it creates that feel-good chemical serotonin, tryptophan, that makes us feel, everything's good in the world. So this cycle starts happening that we eat the carbs, we get the blood sugar, it spikes, it goes down, we can't bring it out, we have brain fog, and then at nighttime, if you're in adrenal burnout, you get this second wind, which is evil, but also because your body doesn't know if it's day or night, and now you can't sleep. So
oh man, I have 1,000 questions going through my head for sure. Like, okay, so do I need to cut back on my carbs? But more importantly, what I want to ask is, okay, clients come to you because they've gone the traditional route. They've gone to the doctor, the hormone, doctor as well, whatever. No, you're normal. And we're like, no, my body's broken and it's not working. So you put us through this, HTMA. And then from there, you're better able to have a real view of what's going on with our body. So when you look at an analysis, right? And let's say, I submit my analysis, what are you going to show me? And then how are you going to help me then combat this aging process or this mineral deficiency, all of the stuff that's going on in my life, so that I can live the second half of my life, not in this state of, carb depletion, brain fog, whatever, like I can't have my favorite carbs. So now life's going to suck. Like I go in, I get my test. You're looking at the biology of Ali Garbero. What happens next?
Yeah. So you don't have to get rid of your carbs. We'll just kind of adapt to your lifestyle. So that's the thing. I don't think that dogma or, absolutes. But what I do is I take a history of your health and wellness, also look at just anything that could have caused stress so that we could do things to help manage it, create a lot of awareness. And then based on your health history and also the labs, I can actually see, as I said, what's going on with and we look at I ask you what your symptoms are, because so many things show up on a lab test. We want to address the biggest thing, because if I just tell you everything that's going on, it can be extremely overwhelming, as you can imagine. And so let's say brain fog. So we'll look and see what's going on in your metabolism, right? Where is your metabolism, your oxidation rate? Is it high or low, and why? And we'll look at the overall minerals. We're going to look at, it'll show you certain ratios. And so the ratios show your oxidation rate, which is your metabolism, if it's fast or slow. And we can see where it's trending too, based on an overall picture. We can look at your vitality ratio, which is how much energy you're able to actually produce, and so that you can do life and respond to life. And that could be something that could be the reason why there's brain fog, because you just don't have enough, like sodium, potassium. They are actually the things that create the energy in your body to hold the charge in your cell. If you can't do that, you're exhausted. You don't have the energy. If you have low potassium, which is interesting, and this is a good high achiever marker, low potassium, a lot of people will be irritated with themselves because I know I can do it, and then yet they can't. And they can see the results right in front of them. That's a sign of somebody who's always been able to, but has been going too fast, too long, too far, right? I mean, it's just, and so they think they can, but actually they don't have the gas in the tank. And then there's the thyroid ratio. So that is something that basically informs energy, mood. It could cause depression, anxiety, all the things that we talk, and weight gain in the middle. It could cause your hair to fall out, and skin to get dry, and those things that are associated with menopause, thyroid. If it's too high, the ratio, then you're not able to get the hormone of thyroid into the cell. If it's too low, it's permeable, and so you can take as much synthetic hormones, the thyroid, as you want, and if it can't get in, or if it can't be held, it's not going to happen. So we sometimes see that there's a disconnect. People say, well, my thyroid hormones are fine. And then we see, well, it's not being utilized. Can it be used? And then there's a blood sugar ratio, adrenal ratio to see how well or how stressed out you are and how long. And then there's an infection ratio, which is basically potentially if you have gut issues, pathogen overgrowth or viral. But we look at all of it, and then we actually, address the main complaint that you have through not that ready, shoot, and aim that I was telling you about back in the day. It's like, okay, well, now we have a roadmap. And the interesting thing is there's a mind-body connection. I can see if you're like a type A personality, or if you're like lax and like, hey, I'm just going to take it as it comes. And I can see that, yeah, it's really interesting. And we can also see that if you've been so stressed out for so long, you're beginning to just check out, which is called the calcium shell. You can see it go really high, like over 165, because that buffers you from the emotions. Almost like our body's intelligent is trying to just calm things down. I know but then, you've got it in the cells, not in the bones. And so that's a danger, right? So we want to get it back. So we use lifestyle, and I look at based on the health history, like where are the gaps there? And then what can we do in the minerals to bring it back online? The thing that makes it less expensive too is that a lot of it is food and lifestyle based. Historically, functional medicine, I ran 5 labs, and it works for a lot of people. I'm not saying if you can do it, do it. Right. But 5 different labs, and then you've got at least 3 or 4, maybe more supplements for each lab to address each thing concurrently, or just like through some kind of process. At the end of the day, you probably have 13 different expensive pharmaceutical grade supplements, and you've got a protocol for 3 months, and it's $500 or more a month to pay for the supplements, and then you have to take them throughout the day in a certain order. And I'm like, if you're a burnt out midlife woman, that is not going to work. I did it helped, but it was so much, like if I didn't know it as well as I did, I couldn't manage it, and a lot of people can't. So with minerals, it's a lot of food based and lifestyle based. A simple thing like how to balance your circadian rhythm, like within an hour of waking up, sit in the sunshine for at least 5 to 10 minutes. Oh, I mean, there's more. I mean, that's just like baseline, but that's doable, right? Or open the glass, literally they put something in there so you get only 50% or less of the rays that you need, but that's better than nothing, right? But maybe when you're driving, open the window, do something so that you're actually getting skin contact, because you have receptors on the skin. But when it goes through your eye, you're actually signaling to your brain and your body, it's time to get up. And then it actually knows when to start creating those hormones and the digestion, and when to start rebuilding, recovering. So that's like a huge game changer.
That you're getting from a hair sample. And I want to ask you a little bit about, you said, how do we put gas back in the tank? And you've already given us a few things like, hey, within a little bit of waking up, go outside into the sun, get some contact with fresh air, touch grass, those kinds of things. I've heard of this thing called HRT, hormone replacement therapy. I don't know. You tell me here, like, are you able to advise on that? Like, is that the route we should go? Is that the path you send us down? Or are you addressing more of these more lifestyle issues that can help our hormones? Like, I guess I'm just confused on what is a good approach to helping put gas back into our tanks?
Yes. So what I'm addressing is more like the upstream, the foundational part. And if you think of the minerals like an orchestra, the conductor, so basically it'll tell everything what to do. And so you can take the hormone replacement therapy, but I would say that you would probably do better also to look at your mineral levels so that you can see if you can actually receive those hormones and do something with it. Like in my case, I couldn't. Plus, if your receptors, it's like a lock and key. You need, like, think of a bowl. And so your hormones need to have a receptor. And if you have a lot of toxins in your body, it's not going to be able to take. And so a lot of us have a lot of toxins in our bodies now. Even if we eat clean, we have an onslaught of it in day-to-day living, sitting in traffic, the fumes, the foods that you're eating, any kind of makeup. They say that, I don't know if this is accurate anymore, but 200 different chemicals, women, on their bodies before they leave their rooms because of all the products they're putting. So think about our poor receptors. So what I would say is hormones can help. But are you ready to receive it? And that's the work that I do. Like, are you able to actually, create something, even like tell the hormones like where to go and what to do and how to respond to your body? And if it's not there, then it's going to actually do more harm than good, to be honest. And a lot of people are paying a lot of money for hormones, and it's making it worse. And then they're saying, well, I must do something else. What do? I'm still gaining weight. I still have brain fog. And off to the races they go. And the thing is, the key and the kicker is that it's about doing less, not more. Because when you're stressed out, remember that whole everything shutting down because there's too much. And that's hard for us women to do. Because when was the last time you just sat there and enjoyed like a sunrise for an extended period of time without feeling like, but I've got this and this and this and this and this to do?
Yeah.
There's stress with trying to relax, and there's guilt with trying to relax because of how we're wired in our generation,
which adds to our stress. But what I'm hearing you say is that this isn't just like downtime, Allie, like you're my coach here, is not just a nice to have. I love that you're going out and pursuing all these big things, but like what's at stake if I don't take that downtime? Are you saying like, yeah, what's at stake here?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're going to age faster, and you're going to have like your body's not going to help with the hormones that it can produce. So the interesting thing is that just because you're in menopause doesn't mean you don't produce sex hormones anymore. It's just that your adrenals are now producing it instead of your ovaries. And so this gives you an even more like big clue as to why the stress and your go lifestyle, not you, but us, is making it worse. Because when you start transitioning from perimenopause to menopause, perimenopause-ish, around that time, our sex organs are maybe, or adrenals are only taking 25%, maybe in our younger years of our sex organs. Then in perimenopause, maybe it shifts to around 50. After menopause, it's 90%. But if we're stressed out, remember, again, our cortisol and stress hormones are taking over. So we're neglecting our sex hormones that we were supposed to be able to make in menopause. And so we're stressed out and we're not able to do that. But now we're taking exogenous, external hormones to fix that. It doesn't make any sense, right? And so, yes, it's dreadful, but then I guess good if you're at the other side of it, that one of the keys is to rethink how you're living your life and shift gears and actually have more fun, more joy, and more downtime, and to not feel guilty about it. And honestly, I went into an empty nest, and that's another thing, but I really dug deep to try and do nothing. Like, oh, poor Dori. Actually, it was so hard. It was like, I really want to create this content, or I'm a business owner, right? So I need to connect. I need to market. Yes. And I'm sitting there thinking, but I need to sit in the sunshine and just be in nature and relax and signal to my body, signal to my primal body that hasn't evolved into this modern day cerebral world. Hey, you're safe. Right. So it's like, what do I need? Like, what is basic physiology? I need rest. I need sunshine. Proper hydration. A lot of us don't drink enough, so we're dehydrated, and so the nutrients and everything aren't even circulating properly, and that can actually 1% dehydration can cause some brain fog. And in midlife, because we're all go and doing all the things, we're dehydrated. A lot of us. They say 70%. So even just drinking water. So that's another thing I like to talk about. A lot of us are sort of hunched over, and I also am a yoga teacher. You put your hand on your chest and tummy, and you inhale and exhale. A lot of us, only the top of our hands move because we're not breathing entirely into our lungs. So we're also air deficient, air, oxygen, nutrients in the body, and circulation flow. And it also signals to your body that you're in danger if you're air deficient. And
Wow.
so there's a lot of these just things that we stop doing properly. I mean, people say we breathe all the time, but we don't. We breathe in that really shallow state because we are in the state of not safe. And our breathing pattern is one of the few things that we can signal to our bodies, our autonomic nervous system, that we're safe, and it's to slow it down. And you don't even have to like manipulate it. If you just notice it, it starts slowing down automatically. But a lot of us go through life just, shallow breathing,
Yeah.
oxygen deficient, brain fog, adrenaline, and trying to get things done and not just being. We're human doings now, not being. I know I've heard that saying.
Well, that downtime is, look, and we're both business owners here, so I get it. We're, corporate careers to add demand, pressure, whatever, there's so many things in our life. Are you saying, as far as like giving yourself a little bit of downtime as being one way to start to healing yourself? Is that something you do daily? Or is that something you take a girls' retreat? Or what does that look like for you personally?
Yeah, we're really busy. And so I always like to do the minimal viable dosage and then encourage people to kind of bring it up. I really loved the mind body connection, signal to your body that you're safe is a big deal. And there's a whole realm of psychology that talks about somatic sensing and therapy. And so a lot of it is simple, and it should be, because, if it's something that's stressful, your health routine shouldn't stress you out. And so one of the things that's real powerful, and I'd like to share that with your audience, is something called a 5-minute nervous system tune-up. And really all it is it takes 5 minutes, but the more you do it, the more powerful it is. And what you're doing is retraining your body what it feels like to be safe and calm, to feel safe and feel calm. And so I do that throughout the day, and it only takes 5 minutes. There are other things that I like to do now just because I'm getting more and more committed, getting out into the sunshine, those kinds of things. Embedding these habits like hydration and just every now and then checking in with your posture that's not hunched over.
Yeah.
And then breathing, just checking into all of these things actually make a big difference, because you're signaling to your body, yeah, I hear you, and I'm giving you what you need primally.
I love these. They are very practical, simple steps that I can see myself implementing. Right. And so that's what I've heard. Kind of your theme is definitely getting my eyes to pop out a little bit, is like, you need to bring that stress down. What's one empowering message that you'd want every woman who's listening, who feels like she's losing herself to these midlife symptoms? What's something hopeful or empowering that you would want them to know?
That you're not broken, and that it's in your hands to be able to recover your health and wellness. And it doesn't have to be something over the top expensive or even just complicated. And find more joy in life, because you can't be in that state of fight, flight and be in joy. And so that's a huge antidote. Find more joy in life. It's a signal, a tap on the shoulder. Right now, you're in that juncture where you can decide one way or another where to go. And this is your time. This is your time to actually stop with the hustle, or at least infuse more joy in your life.
I love it. Dori, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure.